One of the cruelest feelings in dating is realizing you gave so much to someone only to watch them move on like what you gave was nothing. That kind of pain does not just hurt your heart, it attacks your identity. Because now you are not only grieving the person, you are grieving the meaning you attach to everything you did for them. You showed up, you listened, you stayed patient, you gave reassurance, you made excuses for their bad days, you carried conversations, you brought softness where they brought confusion. You offered understanding where they brought inconsistency. You kept trying to build emotional safety while they kept testing how little effort could still keep you close. And then one day, they pull away. They choose someone else. They act fine. They move on fast. Or maybe they never even looked as affected as you expected them to. And now your mind goes somewhere dangerous. If I gave that much and they still let me go, maybe I was never that special. If they replaced me that easily, maybe what I offered did not matter. If I was really valuable, how could they move on like that? That is where overgiving becomes psychologically devastating. Because when you pour too much of yourself into the wrong person, their response starts feeling like a verdict on your worth. But it is not. It only feels that way because you made the common mistake of tying your value to your usefulness. That is what happens in unhealthy dating dynamics. You start believing that if you give enough love, enough patience, enough emotional labor, enough understanding, enough access, enough loyalty, enough softness, the other person will naturally recognize your value and respond with care. It sounds beautiful, it sounds mature, it sounds loving, but in the wrong hands, it becomes a trap, because overgiving does not always make someone treasure you. Sometimes it just makes it easier for them to benefit from you, and that is a brutal distinction. A lot of people do not become more careful with you because you give more. They become more comfortable. They stop seeing your effort as something rare and start seeing it as the environment, the default, the thing that will probably still be there tomorrow. And once your love starts feeling guaranteed to them, they stop responding to it with gratitude and start responding to it with entitlement. That is when the imbalance begins to rot your self-worth. You are giving from devotion. They are receiving from comfort. You are investing with meaning. They are consuming with convenience. You are building emotional depth. They are enjoying emotional support. And because your energy is so strong, so available, so consistent, you think surely this must count for something bigger. Surely they see this. Surely they know what they have. Surely nobody could receive this much and still treat it casually. But people do that every day, not because what you gave was ordinary, because they were not qualified to value it correctly. That is the truth people need to understand much sooner. Being deeply giving does not protect you from being mishandled. In fact, without boundaries, it often attracts people who want the rewards of your depth without the responsibility of matching it. Then when the dynamic collapses, you feel replaceable. Not because you actually were, but because you overinvested in a person who was never measuring value the way you were. You were measuring connection by effort, honesty, loyalty, patience, emotional presence. They may have been measuring it by convenience, timing, ego, novelty, mood, or what felt easy in the moment. Those are completely different systems. And if you do not recognize that, you will misread everything. You will think they moved on quickly, so I must not have mattered. But moving on quickly does not prove you are not meaningful. Sometimes it proves they never connected to you with the same depth you connected to them. Sometimes it proves they receive deeply and feel shallowly. Sometimes it proves they are avoidant, emotionally numb, distracted, impulsive, or just more committed to comfort than reflection. None of that reduces your value. It only exposes their capacity. Still, the pain is real, because overgiving creates emotional debt in your own mind. You think, after all I did, how could they not choose me better? After all I gave, how could they not protect this? After all the patience, effort, and softness I showed, how could they move on so casually? And what hurts is not just losing them, it is losing the story you built around what your giving meant. You thought your presence was building something unforgettable, but they were not building in the same direction. That is why overgivers often feel foolish after heartbreak. They replay the whole thing and wonder whether they were too much, too available, too soft, too patient, too understanding. They question their style of loving. They start treating their own depth like a flaw. Do not do that. Your capacity to love is not the problem. Your lack of protection around that capacity is the problem. That is the shift. You do not need to become colder. You need to become more selective. You need to stop handing premium emotional effort to people who have not demonstrated premium emotional character. You need to stop giving relationship-level energy to people still behaving like options. You need to stop proving your value through overfunctioning in connections that are undernourishing you. Because overgiving in the wrong dynamic creates the illusion that love must be earned through depletion. It teaches you to work harder when things feel shaky, to give more when you feel insecure, to explain more when you feel unseen, to stay longer when you feel yourself slipping away emotionally. That is not always love. Sometimes that is fear trying to make itself useful, and fear is expensive. It will have you showing up beyond reason, beyond reciprocity, beyond safety, because a part of you believes if you can just become indispensable enough, abandonment will not happen. But people abandon what helps them all the time. People leave what nurtures them all the time. People take from what is good all the time. That says something about them, not about the goodness itself. Read that again. The fact that the wrong person mishandled your effort does not mean your effort was cheap. The fact that someone failed to keep you does not mean you were easy to replace. The fact that they moved on does not mean you were forgettable. Sometimes people leave flowers in the rain. That does not make the flowers worthless. It makes the person careless. And that is how you need to start seeing yourself after these kinds of heartbreaks. Not as someone who gave too much because they were foolish, but as someone who gave too much to a person who was unequipped, ungrateful, emotionally limited, or simply not aligned enough to handle what was offered with care. The power move is to stop using rejection as evidence against yourself. Stop turning somebody else's emotional limitations into a story about your inadequacy. Stop assuming that being replaced in behavior means being replaceable in value. They are not the same thing. Someone can leave you and still never find what you were. Someone can move on and still never be deeply met the way you met them. Someone can treat you casually and still spend years repeating the pattern of losing people they were not mature enough to value. You do not need to be chosen badly by the wrong person to prove you are worthy. And you definitely do not need to overgive next time just to feel secure. Let the lesson be this: give slower, watch longer, notice who values what you offer before you pour more of it in. Let people earn deeper layers of your effort. Let them show capacity before they receive consistency. Let them show care before they receive your healing energy. Because the goal is not to become less loving. The goal is to stop making your love available in ways that let careless people determine how you see yourself. You were never replaceable. You were just too available to someone who did not have the depth to understand what they were being given. And once you finally believe that, you stop grieving like you lost to somebody better. You start recognizing you simply offered something rare to somebody ordinary.